When I deployed Ode to Food into IIS in the last demo, I didn't change any configuration settings for the application. For instance, I didn't change the database that the application uses, and when it's running under IIS, it's going to use the same database as the one that I'm using when I'm developing with IIS Express. And that's not typical. Generally, your production database is not the same as the database you develop against on a day-to-day basis. So how would I change the database that the application uses? Well, I'd have to make a change in the web.config file, the web.config file that's deployed under IIS. And fortunately, the publishing feature that we are using makes this easy. It understands special files known as web.config transformation files, which can change any setting in web.config upon publishing. You'll typically find for deployment that you want to change database names and logins, custom error settings, debug settings, and app settings, but these transformation files can change anything inside of web.config. Let me show you how they work. Inside of Visual Studio, you might have noticed some files behind the root level web.config file. These files are named web.debug.config and web.release.config, and these files are transformation files. Each name matches with a build configuration that I have. So for example, I'm currently set up to run under a debug configuration. And if I were to publish from this debug configuration, the transformations inside of web.debug.config will apply. I could also switch to a release configuration and the transformations in web.release.config will apply. I could also use the configuration manager to set up new configurations with different project settings and also associate a web.config transformation with the configuration I created just by creating a web.newname.config file. So the transformation files follow a naming convention to match them up with your solution configuration. Let's open up web.debug.config and see what's inside. Most of the contents inside of here are commented out, but there are two examples of things that you might want to do. First, you might want to set the attributes on an existing element inside of web.config. So for instance, if I wanted to change the database used by the connection string ode to food DB, I don't want to change the name of the connection string. What I want to do is change the pieces inside of the connection string. I might want to set the data source equal to a release SQL Server or a debug SQL Server, that's the server name, change the initial catalog from being ode to food DB to being something like production ode to food DB, and I can change all those things just by having this element inside of web.config and having these special attributes that are the transformation instructions. This is saying set the attributes on the connection string that matches the one with this name. So essentially go out in the web.config file, the real web.config file, find the connection string called ode to food DB, and replace the value that's inside of the connection string with the value that's inside of here. Another example would be where I just want to completely replace a configuration section. So inside of system.web, I might want to go out and find the custom errors configuration and just replace everything inside of here and say that the mode when we are debugging is always going to be off. This is the transformation instruction that just says replace this configuration section. We'll get rid of the custom status code there. And what this should do when I publish now is it will go out and find the custom errors inside of web.config, which is right here, and change this from remote only to off. Let's see how this would work. First of all, let's go out and look at the deployed website. What I'll do again is open up a command prompt as an administrator. I'm going to go out to the directory where the application is currently deployed under IIS. Since it's in the root of the website, it will be in inetpub/www.root. There you can see everything that we need to run our application. And if we open up the web.config file, you'll see currently ode to food DB goes to SQL Express, and that our custom errors are currently set to remote only. But now that we have this transformation file in place, let's go out to the project, republish the project, and now let's open up that web.config again. And this time you can see that ode to food DB now has those settings that were in the transformation file. So it's going to try to go to a data source called release SQL Server, and the custom errors mode has been set to off. For the release build of this project, I'd probably want to set custom errors mode and make sure that is on. I'd also might want to change to a different database, so I could put those settings in the release.config, change over to release, and do a publish again.